Welcome to the Conduit Deeper podcast, a podcast that takes a deep dive into the details that surround our current sermon series, from current events to fascinating finds to conversations that take us deeper into the Word. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to the Deeper Podcast. My name is Mo, Executive Pastor at Conduit Church, joined with our lead pastor, Darren Tyler, coming off a massive Easter weekend where it was a full house.
It was fun.
It was a fun weekend.
Fun house.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We had 6 services over the course of 2 days.
Yep.
Saturday and a Sunday. But I can honestly say it was a really fun weekend. It didn't feel as heavy as maybe it sounded, or like, not heavy in the sense of like weighty, but like a lot of work. It didn't feel like a lot of work. We were hanging out with our friends for 2 days.
Yeah, it was like a giant party, and we had tons of help to put it. It was just, I mean, it's tiring, right? Like,
No doubt about it.
like there's some, I've heard it said for preaching that it's like a 8-hour workday for every sermon, which honestly sounds a little bit like what somebody would say to make people feel sorry for them, because that's a stretch, you know, that it's an 8-hour workday. But there's a joke amongst pastors that Mondays you have a preaching hangover.
Yeah.
And if you do 6 of them, it turns out that it feels like you've done a weekend bender. Like I went on a weekend preaching bender. And I sat down at my computer on Monday to start working for next Sunday. And I just,
No way.
like, I remember staring into space thinking, my brain just doesn't work right now
Total mush.
at all. But the best part of it for the party that we threw was, this was your birthday party. It's Jesus' resurrection party, but this is your birthday party. We literally invited 3,000 of your closest friends.
Yeah, thanks for coming to my birthday party.
And we didn't have any cake, though. That kind of hurts.
Yeah, there was plenty of sweets to go around.
Oh, buddy.
Which is not helpful when you're on a diet, you know. But I did find some reprieve from the diet over the weekend, and just splurged on a few things.
So not necessarily a reprieve; it was more like a relapse.
Yeah, 48-hour relapse of cake and ice cream and pizza and things I haven't had in 7 months.
Oh, that actually all sounds amazing.
I know, right? I hate to bring it up because I don't want to derail
Yeah.
you. But I know you're on the same journey too.
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, Mo is 100% doing this all natural. I would love to find a medication, but I feel like we have similar motivations, but mine is I'm hiking to base camp in Everest in September. I'm finishing something I didn't
April,
get to finish.
May, June, July, August. You got 5 months.
Yeah. And so I can hire a courier, or I guess I can call it couriers, Sherpa. They'll carry up to a 50-pound bag for you. So that's great. I don't have to carry a bag. But they won't carry my fat butt.
You weigh more than 50 pounds.
Every pound I lose is a pound I don't got to carry up the hill. So
could it be one of those things like you hire 4 Sherpas and then like you sit on a chair that has, you know, poles and they could just carry you up?
I mean, these are some strong Sherpas. I think it's going to take more than 4.
Okay, 6 Sherpas.
Yeah, we could do it like they used to do in ancient Egypt, right?
Like, why is that not an option? You're sitting on a comfortable chair.
You know, you might be onto something here.
Just
so
carry you up. It might be a little, you know, topsy-turvy, but put a seatbelt on it.
Yeah. You know, this is not a bad idea because these guys
take a nap. You could put a recliner.
It's like $100 per courier.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not talking
a day?
No, for like the whole week.
Dude, sold.
So 6 of them, I could do a GoFundMe.
You would have this paid for by the end of this podcast.
Get Darren's fat butt up Everest. And I tell you, it's actually really funny because, you know, we show up and we got all this gear, you know, North Face bags and yada, yada. And these guys, it's like their job. So they show up like in jeans, tennis shoes.
Crocs.
They're about the size of a mid-sized schnauzer. These are tiny guys. But they'll throw 3 50-pound bags each on their back and still beat you to the next stop. It's unbelievable.
Sound like a blurry creature.
Well, I've been promised by Pasong, who is our lead Sherpa, that he's going to show me where the Yeti skull is along
Come on.
the hike. Now, for all I know, this is just a gorilla skull.
Why would a gorilla be in the Himalayas?
Well, I mean, it's been up there for a while, but over the years, like you see, they basically like stapled something together, taking different body parts. I don't know. Pasong talks about the Yeti like we would talk about coyotes. Like he's not over there acting or pretending like there is no such thing as a Yeti. They literally, or they're just part of the ambiance of ever. So I promise if I see one, I don't know if I'm going to tell anybody, because then you join the I'm Crazy Club.
People already have us there, so
that's fair.
Don't worry about it.
That's true. You can't get any more crazier. So then what I'll do is I'll quit and go on a speaking tour. My encounter with the Yeti.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
The abominable snowman.
The possibilities for this trip are really, really exciting. I'm loving it.
All that to say, I did not participate in the sweets. That, and when you're teaching, I've had to learn the hard way. If you eat a big sugar rush before you go on,
what goes up must come down.
And I've been a couple times I was mid-sermon when the sugar crash was starting, and I'm not slamming donuts or anything, but I'm like, okay, I've got to be more careful with what I'm putting in my body before.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Sundays like that, Saturday, Sunday, back to back to back, over and over again. You really have to watch what you're drinking and eating.
Yeah, hydrate. And it's not like I'm whining, right? I mean, there's worse jobs. I could be digging coal mines in England. Like, this is not that hard when it comes down to it.
Yeah, but the reality is when someone comes for, service number 5, it's service number 1 for them.
Yeah. And I need to give service 1 energy to service 6, right? So.
And it's a good reminder for those coming for service 1 that, this is our 5th time around, and we might be just a little tired, and we're pushing through and we're giving it all we got.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Good reminder.
So come to first. No, come to the 5 p.m.
Come to the 5.
Oh, sorry. I was about to give you terrible advice. No, come to the 5.
You can come to the 9, you can come to the 11, but you're going to have to be strategic.
Yeah.
And then the easiest of options is just to come to the 5.
Yeah.
Plenty of room. But the point is, we had an Easter weekend where you somehow threaded the needle of our Genesis series into an Easter teaching that was, dare I say, brilliant.
That might be a little much for this early in the morning.
It was well done.
It was
really well done. It's not easy.
Well, here's what I would say to that. Like, you almost, it was a G.K. Chesterton, some theologian, that said if he had an hour to present the gospel to someone, he would spend the first 55 minutes talking about creation and the creation of man, and what he was getting at was you can't teach salvation without knowing what you're being saved from. And Genesis answers all of those questions in a way that science doesn't, anthropology, geology, history, none of them can teach. They can teach what, but not why. Yeah, and those first 11 chapters, it sews it all together more than any other writing, more than any other attempt, and makes a cohesive case of this is how we got here, and this is why we're here, and this is why the world is in the shape that it's in. You can only answer that in Genesis 1 through 11. There's no history book that can answer it. That's the answer is why, is Genesis 1 through 11. So
it's actually convenient that we're going through the book of Genesis.
Yeah. Yeah, when we started it, now I'll say this: when we started, I intended the whole time like we were going to try to go be in Genesis 3 on Easter, and in all honesty, when we got there was a moment of like, I might have bitten off more than I can chew. This is because then on an Easter sermon, it's like I feel like I have to cast a wider net, because it's a place where there are people that are maybe far from God or whatever, that giving it a try again for the first time, and so. For me to go down some deep rabbit hole philosophically, it's just not the best time for that. So it was a challenge, but it was one I enjoyed, and I could take credit, but it's just the Bible. It's just this endless deep well of truth and life.
It was really good. The Easter side of Eden was the title, and you addressed a few specific things: the loss of innocence, immortality, and intimacy that happened in the garden. Specifically, immortality. Birthday weekend. I'm getting older, not as young as I once was.
But you're as good once as you ever was, right? Wait, isn't that the song?
So anti-aging, right? So like you brought up this article talking about immortality. The goal for secular humanists is basically getting back to the garden, back to Garden of Eden without God.
Yeah.
And science and tech are trying to pave that path. And one of the articles you shared on Sunday was regarding the anti-aging movement within the tech sector. This is wild stuff.
It's been happening for a while.
Well, a decade.
It's ramping up.
Yeah, I mean, most of these companies formed about a decade ago where they started to kind of pop up and be funded. Obviously, a lot can happen in the tech world in 10 years. So it's further down the line at this point. One of the articles you shared is the California Life Company. Ever heard of them? California Life Company, also known as Calico.
Yeah.
Which is owned by Alphabet, which is basically the parent company for Google.
It's like Sergey Brin.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the others are involved, but last I'd read, like they were in the tens, if not hundreds of millions that they're investing. So here's my take on what they're doing and why it's so centralized in Silicon Valley versus, say like Vanderbilt. If you view everything as ones and zeros, then you're just literally a coding problem to be solved. Now, they would look at the human genome, which Francis Collins decoded back in the 90s, the fingerprint of God. He's lost his ever-loving mind during the COVID era, and I've lost every ounce of respect I had for him. But the point being, he discovered that inside the human genome, in our DNA, is a code. And so what they're getting at is if we can doctor this code, then we can reverse aging and stop it ultimately. Now, the irony of all ironies is that they're saying they could reverse a code without asking who was the coder. Like, how did we get the code to begin with? Like, for 100 years of evolutionary history, they viewed our code, our DNA, the atoms inside of us, as like little blobs. And they've since figured out that is not at all what it is, that there's an actual code, and you have your code, I have my code, and they want to reverse that code, which is a whole other way of saying, I'm going to build a tower to the sky and make a name for myself. It's a whole other way of saying, Genesis 6, the sons of God, were intimate with the daughters of men, and they gave, they're trying a modern version of re-engineering our DNA. That's not new. This is just a different approach to it, and it will fail because, as Kurzweil and these other, they viewed dying as a disease, and they're correct. It is. We were not meant to die. That was not how we were created. But Genesis 3, because of rebellion, that was what God said. If you do this, in that day you will surely die, and that is a code that cannot be re-engineered by a human attempt. It's only God that could recode that. And he will one day. When we are resurrected, whatever DNA we had is recoded, whatever, to no longer have a virus in the code. Like, we will have immortality, but we're not getting it without the God of Eden.
Yeah, they absolutely believe that they can recode this genome. And there's a ton of tech in motion that's researching this. One of the tech is called CRISPR.
Yeah.
CRISPR.
I don't think is there an I in it? I think it's CRSPR or something like that.
CRI.
Is it?
SPR, CRISPR. And something else called a Cas9, CAS9. go research and Google that stuff for a minute and then come up for a big old fresh breath of air, because it is scary stuff of what they're attempting to do. Modify your DNA.
Yeah. There is an episode of Radio Lab that I believe to be 10, 12 years old. Before they became a anti-science podcast, they were a science podcast. And when you're Googling, Google for that. And it's a fascinating conversation on CRISPR and what that means and what they're attempting 12 years ago with it.
Yeah, and then so along these lines, I mean, even this past month, not even like just a couple of weeks ago, Ray Kurzweil was on the Rogan podcast.
What a weirdo, man!
He's a futurist, technologist, futurist who was actually employed by Google and Alphabet not too long ago. I don't think he currently is on the board any longer, but he was a researcher. That he's as a futurist, and he's written several books, but he's talking about basically the merging of tech and biology.
Yeah,
that's his focus, his lifelong focus. And so even just these past couple of weeks when he was on this interview, he was talking about this idea of longevity, like living forever, immortality, the potential for immortality because of AI, and how AI will meet this singularity in he's saying 2045 or maybe sooner, where human intelligence reaches a point that is like, what did he say, 100 trillion times more than we currently have now. And so because of this super intelligence, both in computer and biology connected together through something like Neuralink, or he goes on and talks about nanobots in the brain being injected, and how all of those nanobots could do processes for us that are faster than anything we can do as a human. That doing all of these things will eliminate the flaws in our genome that causes us to die.
Did you get any indication when you're listening to him, are they trying to pursue this as a pill, or as surgical, or as like an implant, or like an adaptation, like an extra battery on your iPhone?
Yeah, it sounds more like an adaptation, like a Neuralink type device, something that's implanted.
Wonder if it would go on your hand or on your forehead.
Well, there you go. One of the ways that it can be implanted is, this is where it gets really crazy, is through this CRISPR technology. The road has been built through mRNA technology that we've all learned about the past 4 years, for an injection to serve as a purpose, as a highway for these types of tech into our DNA. That's where it gets really squirrely, really, really fast. And so one of his claims on this podcast was, he mentioned the concept of longevity escape velocity. Okay, and all that he's saying is that by 2029, he believes that by 2029 we will reach a point where we get back more than a year of longevity for every year that passes because of technology. In other words, that by 2029, scientific progress will outpace the aging process. So we'll see such leaps and bounds in science over the course of 1 year that we will start to reverse our age the opposite direction, because it will have those paths will have crossed.
Do you get the sense, I've not heard this interview, and I've actually not heard Kurzweil say this, so I'm not sure. Do you get the sense that he's suggesting that longevity is the goal, or that immortality is the goal? Because immortality is different than longevity.
He goes on to say that he believes that immortality is possible. Now, Rogan pushes hardcore back on that.
Does he?
Oh yeah, it's a fascinating interview. Not for what Kurzweil is saying, because he talks super slow, and
I mean, he's a weirdo.
He's
been a weirdo for all of my adult life.
But Rogan asks some great questions
Huh.
and really pushes back on a lot of this. But yeah, the longevity is the initial like phase, right?
Yeah.
How can we increase our longevity in life? He was bragging how he takes 80 pills a day to look as good as he does, which if
it's not that good.
he's like he's 70, he's bragging how he's 76 years old and looks and feels so great, but he looks like every bit of 96.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like when I hear some of these guys talking about that, like it's almost like a weird version of body dysmorphia because like I appreciate that you feel like younger than you do, but everybody does. Like
Sure.
I still on occasion will startle the crap out of myself.
Look in the mirror.
Like when I walk by, because my wife, it turns out I'll say this to you guys. If you're going to marry a beautiful woman, they're not like vain, like where they're wanting to look at themselves in the mirror, but they also don't think of mirror as a scary thing.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. So like our house is full of mirrors and I have scared the crap out of myself like at night, like walking through, I'm like, oh God, who's that guy? Like, oh, that's me. So I don't feel this old. But I think it was Benny Prophet that said like when you look around all your friends and realize, man, these guys all look old, it's because you're old. But I think, even this Brian Johnson or whatever that guy's name is that's been, spending $1 million a year. I mean, he looks good, but he doesn't look 20. Like it's not like he just looks like any guy in our church that's in shape, that's running, that's taking care of themselves. So but 70 pills a day, I mean, I'd be full. You could lose weight just because I wouldn't have any room to eat anything else because I'm eating a meal with pills.
He claims he limits his protein intake to under 50 grams a day because protein apparently, excessive protein.
I bet Joe Rogan lost his mind on that.
He was not having any of that.
Taking on the protein.
But the thing that he said that really, really, really caught my attention was he discusses how artificial intelligence will allow us to remove humanity's flaws over time, that we will get so much smarter as ChatGPT goes from version 4.0 to 5.0 to 6.0 to 10.0, that when we reach 2029, the singularity potential of intelligence is so far outpaces anything that we've ever seen before, that because it's so intelligent and smart, that it will remove the flaws of humanity.
Now, did Rogan agree with him on that? Because
no, he didn't.
So he's shifting views because I've heard him say over the years, and he'll just say it in passing, I feel like we're going to get to that point where we're going to be able to, re-engineer and get rid of all the, the baggage, in his mind, like emotions or baggage or the weaknesses. And
yeah, and that's the point he brought up. He was talking about how would it remove emotion from this equation? Because that's what spurs on wars and,
Yeah, it's what James, why is it that you guys war? Is it not because of your selfishness? That's the... I mean, so you're talking about Ray Kurzweil, and he's already talking about immortality and innocence, right? Those are the two things that we had in the Garden of Eden with it. And when you think about then the third, like you remove the innocence, return it, then the intimacy returns because we don't have wars anymore. We're going to achieve world peace because we've re-engineered us so well. It's literally trying to get the Garden of Eden without the God of Eden. Like that's what they're saying. We have this way, and and when you look at Genesis 11, which we'll get to at some point, when they build the Tower of Babel, it says they went to the sand and built bricks out of the sand. And it jumped out at me because that's where silicon comes from. Like it is an earth, it is a mineral from the earth that is mined and created. And when you look at these silicon chips like NVIDIA, some of these companies, it looks like little bricks that they put all in a row to create. So is it a stretch? I don't know. It just seems like they're using the exact same thing they were using thousands of years ago for the exact same reason, which is the Garden of Eden without the God of Eden. So
true. Yeah, I mean, I think the key word there was the flaws, humanity's flaws. Like they can't bring themselves to, secular humanists can't bring themselves to acknowledging sin.
Sin, yeah.
Right.
It's flaws, it's struggles, brokenness, whatever.
And if we're smart enough, if we have more intelligence, there's no room for these flaws because we know better.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do I do the things I don't want to do? Yeah, it is another hope. And when you hear somebody like Rogan, who we've listened to for a while, his views morphing, because eventually you kind of have to come to the conclusion, this is actually just not working. Like in the 60s and 70s, the sexual revolution, like that was the promise. I referenced Woodstock at one point, but that was all an attempt at Garden of Eden without the God of Eden. It was just a peace and love, hippie version, whatever you want to call it. And now we're in a technological version of it, which is not working either. In fact, the irony being that the better the technology has gotten, the better we are able to wipe humanity off the face of the earth. Like with one push of a button, we could end it all with the technology that we've created.
And speaking of that technology, kind of the loss of intimacy, you also brought up another article that referred to, I guess, this new book, Jonathan Haidt. Is that how he says that name?
He's a great follow on Substack, by the way. After Babel is his Substack.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just realized
The
connection to that. I literally just
title.
connected that dot in real time. DT went, oh.
Missed that one.
Yep. Oh, well. Well, there's always another sermon.
The Great Rewiring
is
the name of his new book.
Yeah.
It's discussing the impacts of social media and how it's fueling mental health crisis in America, not just in America, and young people across the world.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. Across the world now, not just America. And social media is at the center of that. I see it in real time happening in places like Haiti because they have, like, their world is falling apart. But if they can find electricity, which they find from time to time, they can charge up a phone and see how you and I are living here in America. And I was messaging with a kid that I've known for, since she was little, and realized what she was describing to me was a panic attack. Like she needed to get to the hospital because my heart is racing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's having a panic attack. But she has no language for that.
Yeah.
But the only thing different now, there were no panic attacks in Haiti 20 years ago. But there is now because of, I got to think Haidt is right. There's something to social media that is driving it in a younger generation, even more so than in us in our age group.
Can we blame yesterday's weather frenzy on social media too? Like, to me, like the weather drama over the past decade, 20 years is at levels that's never, like, I don't remember it being this way. Like schools closing for the potential of thunderstorm and tornadoes, like schools closing for the potential
shut it down,
of an inch of snow. Like it hasn't snowed yet, but school's closed because it might.
Yeah.
Or it hasn't stormed yet. All the ingredients are there for tornado or hail or a thunderstorm, and schools close. I just feel like that's fueled by social media and breaking news and warnings.
I think it has to be part of it because when you think about us as leading a church, for instance, people have the ability now to give us their opinions in ways we've never, ever had before. And on the one hand, that's great because we can learn. But on the other hand, they can get in your head and take up a whole bunch of mental real estate. So that like with yesterday, there's storms coming. It's storms. Like it happens all the time. When I was a kid, they'd throw us in the hallway, put your head between your legs, and
tornado drill.
Yeah.
Did you do tornado drills in school?
Oh yeah, we did nuclear war drills, man. We would
I didn't do that.
Yeah, we were hide under your desk, which I'm like, I saw the movie. Like, it ain't going to work. Like, it's going to vaporize the desk. Like, all it's going to do is melt on me before I melt. So, but
I remember doing monthly fire drills and tornado drills.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably still a thing.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I don't think so. Ethan said they don't do tornado drills.
Well, now they just close school and send you home.
Yeah. Yeah, they just shut it down.
I've got a friend of mine whose son is probably 9 or 10 years old. He was having a panic attack yesterday because they closed the school. Parents had to come pick him up, and then he's got a little screen, little phone that's got a weather app on it, and it's got all these warnings and blinking and everything. And he was
Yeah.
He was about to puke. Like he was sick
Like
to his stomach.
genuinely sick, yeah.
Scared to death.
Yeah.
And he's like 9.
Yeah. So, the short answer is 100% that it can affect, and it does, and it is. I mean, I know how it affects me, and it's almost like if I end up down a doom scroll, it almost feels like I just went to Edley's and just ate so much until I hated myself. Like I don't walk away feeling good about life.
Right.
And it's not because I'm more informed. It's because I'm just more overwhelmed. The human brain was never meant to know. Again, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, back to Genesis.
Exactly, was going to go there.
We were not meant to carry the weight of the world. And social media has made the world accessible. So the irony of irony, secular humanists think we're going to connect the world. It's going to make it better. And all it did was connect us to Romans 1 on a front row. So how do you even know which crisis to get wound up about, right? There's one in Haiti. There's one in Middle East. There's one in Tennessee. Like there's crises everywhere.
Nonstop.
And if you don't, like, so for us, for instance, as pastors, there's so much that we literally there's not enough time in the day for it. But then what social media fuels is that just because you or I didn't get on this bandwagon that we have missed, that we're less than or whatever. And I've had to be careful because I feel sometimes about that in Haiti. Like, do you not care? Do you not? And the answer is, of course they care. They just can't care about it. We've only got capacity as humans. I learned this from John Tyson through research that he'd read and done. But humans in general, we have the capacity for empathy for about 20 people in our lives. Actual empathy.
Wow.
And, that's Brene Brown's big thing is empathy. But the fact is we only have enough. And after you get past that, it overwhelms you. Because empathy is like you're kind of taking on the feelings of someone else. I'm taking on their feelings with them. And the case that John Tyson was making is you better figure out who those 20 people are. And there's a difference between ministry compassion and empathy. Ministry compassion says that, yes, I am passionate and I'm angry about this and we're going to do something about it. But taking the feelings on of someone else or some other, I better figure out. And I've got 4 kids and a wife. So I got 5 spots that I better be making sure are already taken up. And there's 15 left now. And these are not hard and fast rules, but that's the sense that you get is now I'm experiencing the feelings of other people in an empathetic way, which is supposedly a healthy thing. But if it's, the crisis in whatever part of the world, it just overwhelms us in a hurry. When I was a kid, we got to see the evening news and it was on for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And Walter Cronkite would say, that's the news, good night. He wasn't handing off to the next guy, hooking you into keeping it, and then hooking to the next guy and the next lady and whatever, and the social media is just that on steroids, which are 1 minute, clips of disaster after crazy.
Yeah. And so what does that look like for, a young Americans, adolescents, which is what this book is pointing to.
Yeah.
Adolescents, think about a 14-year-old today was 10 years old when the COVID world happened. And all of the anxieties that they have grown up with essentially in very formidable years of their life and all of the emergencies and all of these different things that we had to do, not go to school, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, and all of the frustration and all of the news bites and all of the things that they endured for 4 years straight. Now they're 14 heading into Lord knows what, maybe just now getting a phone as well. And now learning what it looks like to scroll and to scroll and to scroll and to read and to this and that. Super overwhelming. And what is the impact of that a decade from now?
Yeah, Haidt's research is that, and by the way, Haidt is H-A-I-D-T, is, I think,
yes,
is his what he's suggesting is what the book title is, that it actually has rewired brains, like neuropaths and stuff. Like it's literally rewiring. And the question of what does this mean for our future is, it's unknown because we've never had a global experiment like this done on so many humans at the same time. And we just don't know. There is no way to know what the future is other than if you're a parent. If I could go back and do it all over again, right? I feel a tremendous amount of guilt on how early we let. And we were like 12 or 13. Like wasn't like they were starting when they were 6 or 7 in our house. But I'm looking 12 or 13. It wasn't old enough. It was like literally we opened a door to the outside world. And then, it's kids. They were not, I mean, I laugh, but it's not funny that, we snuck around and did things when our parents weren't around. And now it's burner phones, it's burner accounts. If you talk to Joel and Michaela, every teenager, they think, in our church has another social media account that is not the one that their parents know about. And I'm 53 going, what? Really? That's a thing? Like everybody's doing it? Like, of course. And then later going, of course it was. Like this was my version of figuring out how to buy cigarettes, when my parents weren't watching.
Maybe this might be a pro tip for some parents. I'm about to out some secrets here.
Let's do it, man. Let's expose.
One of the workarounds that teens have found is through the Bible app.
Think about that.
So the Bible app has a chat feature that you can talk to people. You can have friends. You can send things to. And so where's the last app on a phone that a parent's going to check for something like that? The Bible app.
Now, doesn't it, now, if they're doing check it on screen time, does it show up that they've had the Bible app opened? Which means, oh, my kid is so spiritual because he's spending hours on the Bible app.
Yes.
So maybe here's your workeround. If your child has 12 hours logged on the Bible app this week,
time to start
check your Bible app. He's probably not reading Leviticus. He's probably performing some Song of Solomon stuff on there.
little drive-by Song of Solomon. That's a legit hack. That's a teen hack these days amidst our church family and friends. It's wild. One of the things that hate proposes though is something called internet adulthood, and like raising the age of legal access to the internet to 16, like a driver's license, but for the internet. What do you think of that? You think that's something that?
I think it'll never work, because when you try to legislate that kind of morality, I mean, it I don't know how you would even enforce it, starting with, and then you're talking about. So the idea right now that we would remove TikTok, from America. First of all, I don't think it could stand up in a constitutional law. I think it would be overturned if they did that. And at the same time, I think they should do it anyway, because it is a 100% national security threat to our nation. But if you talk to a 20-year-old, they're apoplectic. Like, my kids are like, Dad, do you think it's going to happen? Like, they're literally, they would go down to they would put a mask on for COVID, but they would, but they would get the pitchforks and the torches and march on the Capitol if we took TikTok away from them. Which, if you think about it, if you're China, what a brilliant strategy. Get an addictive technology that dumbs down a population and let us kill ourselves instead of killing them. I don't know that they realized it when they were programming this stuff. I do know that they had some knowledge, because we know this. The algorithm for TikTok in China is different than the algorithm for American kids, for the rest of the world. They're getting shown propaganda from China, math and sciences, but it is not. They are not getting the same kind of stuff that we get with it. And I don't remember if hate covers this or not, but that Wall Street Journal piece from a few weeks ago absolutely stopped me in my tracks, which was they had set up thousands of accounts on TikTok under the age, like 13-year-old female girl, and then began to use these accounts en masse to see how fast algorithms would start showing them harmful material. And it was within minutes that they're viewing murders, they're viewing, violence, like sexual content, within minutes on TikTok. So the answer is, it's not quite like when we were kids, like with cigarettes and stuff, like you find your way around it. Somebody's got an uncle that'll buy you beer. Like, it makes it harder to access it with laws. But when it comes to technology, I don't have to go to a store any longer, even for it's not funny. Like, when I was a kid, like, we had to work for pornography. You had to do the walk of shame, or you'd find some guy's stash in the woods. Like, I don't know what all these guys were doing in the woods with porn, but like every 12-year-old I knew in the town I grew up in had a story of stumbling into someone's stash in the woods. But it's in a phone now. So the only way it works now is if you have a phone, or if you don't have a phone at all. I'm sorry. And as a parent, like I had to admit, like I get uneasy if my kids don't have their phones with them because I can't get a hold of them.
Sure.
Of course, when we were younger, they'd let us out, and they'll probably be home by dinner, most likely.
I remember as a kid in high school, I had to keep a quarter with me all the time in my car. A quarter.
Was this your mom or your dad?
Well, no, my mom wanted to make sure I had a quarter with me at all times so that
she could call. You could call her.
So I could call her. The pay phone. Kids that are listening, there used to be this thing where there was a box on a wall in a public place. You stick a quarter in it and you could make a phone call.
I remember when the price went from like 10 cents to 25 cents, and it was like everybody's freaking out.
A dime to a quarter. Yeah, I mean, in high school, like after baseball practice, I had to make sure I had my quarter. I may have to, work this out a little bit because I'm having feelings around this. Where I forgot a quarter one day, and it was like all heck broke loose because I'd have a way to get a hold of my parents, and then eventually they showed up, and they're like, "Where's your quarter?" And then you have to remember all these phone numbers. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I used to be able to remember everyone's phone number.
Oh, yeah.
Not anymore. But, yeah, you're just driving around with a quarter to make a phone call. That was old technology.
But that's part of it. With the parents, it's not that we're bad, for this, but it's like we want to be able to get a hold of our kids. We want our kids to be able to be safe, all that stuff. And so how do you take away that technology without taking, it's all in one device. I think it was, I don't remember which guy. I heard somebody say this, and I'd give them credit if I could remember. But they were making the correlation between ancient Rome that a lot of people know this, but towards the end of the Roman Empire, they thought that what hastened the fall of the Roman Empire was lead in their water, lead in the pipes, lead. The technology that propelled the growth of the Roman Empire was the same technology that hastened the end of the Roman Empire. And it was water laced with lead. There were illnesses that were reported that they now know were connected, would have been lead poisoning.
So the pipes that they created to usher in all of this water for life and for civilization was hastened. They didn't know it was in there, and they're drinking it to their own demise.
Yeah, the thing that they thought was the irony, the thing that not that they thought, the thing that did propel them was the ability to move water. And that was groundbreaking. When you tour ruins in Israel or Rome or whatever, they have these baths and there was
aqueducts.
Yeah. Like they could move water hundreds of miles. The engineering around it is unbelievable, and it was killing them. And that's the irony now, that this is the technology that is propelling the spread, the growth, whatever, of the Western Empire could very well be the same technology that hastens the end of the Western Empire.
It's interesting. It's this return to the Garden of Eden without the God of Eden, this tree of knowledge that we think we can get from a device. We can literally search, ask, look for anything, and have it within seconds.
I do it all the time. I'm watching a show like with my wife.
I'm super guilty of this.
How tall is Meghan Markle? Like, I used to have to wonder. I don't know.
Just ask.
But now I know she's 5'3". And that's without heels. But the most random information, and I will go ahead and Google it because otherwise I'll stop paying attention because I'm like, I really, really want to know who John Stamos is married to. Like, I gotta know.
Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, and it's completely irrelevant information, but I will say it's dumbed me down because I used to be able to, same thing, I knew everybody's phone numbers. I still know the phone number of my high school girlfriend. But the moment I got an iPhone, I couldn't tell you any of my kids' phone numbers now.
Yeah.
I don't need to know it anymore.
Yeah, why? Why would you?
I don't need to know it. So it's like but I can tell you how tall Meghan Markle is. So tell me how dumb am I that I'm counting on my iPhone to tell me my kids' phone numbers, right? But
back to the garden. And, the irony is not lost on us that the name of the product that we're all using is called Apple.
Yeah. Yeah, every time I turn it on and there's an apple with a bite taken out of it, I'm like, I know it. We don't know if it was an apple in the garden, but there's such an irony that here I am with the knowledge of tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is literally in my pocket right now.
a loss of innocence, a loss of immortality, a loss of intimacy. All of those things can be regained, restored, which is what you talked about, which is this garden and that the tree, obviously, that Jesus was crucified on, was executed on our behalf for, to restore us back to the garden. And so it speaks of the hope that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need to rely on these things any longer.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks of the already and not yet of the kingdom of God. We have restored our intimacy with God, and through the gospel, taking it into us. Like, I think that's part of the transformation that happens in our lives, that there's more intimacy available through someone who is a Christian with another Christian, like my wife and I, because when I frame everything through the gospel, everything, like, and I'm not just speaking of sexual intimacy, I'm just intimacy, because it takes away the fear. It takes away, and if we're in the middle of a fight, I can recognize, oh, you know what, she's not mad, she's afraid. And what would Jesus do in that situation? Like, how would Jesus respond in that situation? Now, that doesn't mean I do it well. I certainly don't do it perfectly, but I do it better than I could have. So that's the already part, because the gospel gives me that. And then the not yet is, and then one day the glorified body is what the Bible, we would call that. I don't know that actually that's not a biblical word. We just made it up. But there is a body awaiting for us where all of this is, and the intimacy is restored. I mean, we're going to talk about it this weekend, actually, that the difference, that when God clothed Adam and Eve, it was about the shame, but it was also just about the protection that they needed. The nature is suddenly hostile against them. There's thorns now. There's things that they didn't have before. So, and fig leaves just dry up and fall off. But that's what Adam and Eve tried to clothe themselves with. So there's a picture of the gospel in that, even that what Christ is clothing us with is, yes, for our sins, but also for our protection, because the fig leaves we try to cover ourselves with, I mean, they dry up and fall off. So you're back to being naked and ashamed again within, a day of having your fig leaves. It's a constant need to keep putting fig leaves back on with it. And we'll cover that this weekend. But the garden, it literally jumped off the page at me, John 19, because I was looking for the Garden of Gethsemane, and it was like, oh no, I forgot. Like, I've been there, like where they call it the garden tomb, because it was in a garden, and the tomb is at the same place where the crucifixion happened. So it's the tale of three gardens, but that middle garden is the bridge, right, that closes the gap between Genesis 3 and Revelation 22. So we hold on to that now, put the cross in the middle of our life. That's the tree of life for us that leads us to the ultimate tree of life in our future.
So you've been to the garden tomb.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We were supposed to go see that this year.
We would have been getting back about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, man, that makes me sad. And we weren't able to go on this Israel trip because of everything that's happening over there.
Yeah.
What is, if as we kind of round third head for home on this, if you could, what is an update on what's happening? It's been obviously several months since things started over there with the conflict and with Hamas attacking Israel in October. But, it's April. So what's the latest?
Man, well, so it's the week of April 1st, right? So yesterday, what is the date today, the 3rd?
Today is the 3rd, yes.
So April 2nd, Israel hit a spot inside of Damascus, Syria, to take out a Iranian general, and this is a baller move on their part, because it is on foreign soil in a nation that had not attacked them, but it's a safe haven for what's happening inside of.
Safe to say, a nation that has not attacked them directly.
That's fair, yeah,
but perhaps via proxy.
Yeah, let's clarify that. Syria, Bashar al-Assad, is not a fan of Israel, and very much in cahoots with Iran. I had the privilege, and it really was a privilege, to spend a little bit of time with the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Herzog, on Friday.
Good Friday.
Yeah, Good Friday. Only the Jews would book an event for Christians on Good Friday.
I was thinking about that.
It was like they just didn't know. It's not on their calendar.
Sheesh.
Like they wouldn't have done it on Rosh Hashanah, but they'd certainly like on Good Friday. We don't know. We don't know what happens. But it was interesting because he was saying that where they are right now, that they've got to attack the head of the snake. We got to cut the head of the snake off. Speaking, and he was talking about Iran. This was Friday, so I don't know if he knew something already or if this is just, I know it's been part of their plans already, but it's like they've got, Iran is the one that is funding this. And we've been kicking the can with Iran down the road since like 1977, 78. And the problem with kicking a can down the road is you eventually come to the end of the road. There's no more road and the can is still there. And that's, in this metaphor, is Iran. So they took out this general yesterday, vaporized him.
Boy.
And so, of course, the fear right now. Now, in fairness, look, this is what happened when Trump took out an Iranian general in Iraq, and the legacy media was just like wringing their hands about World War III. And so I don't know that this is an indication of that, but I do know that this is an escalation on the part of Israel that is, I think, necessary. Here's what I know. If they don't do this, Israel will not exist. Like, we can be mad about it. We can, the Biden administration can talk about negotiating with it. But the simple fact is you cannot negotiate with a rattlesnake. You have to kill it. And Iran is the rattlesnake, and they have made crystal clear their intentions. This is not a shock. It's not like, oh, I can't believe they did that. They have made no hesitations at all that this is their goal, is to destroy the little Satan and the great Satan, and we in this metaphor are the great Satan. Like they're coming for us if we don't stop it.
The leaders of Iran obviously are very displeased. They are talking a big game, about repercussions of this. Basically saying we are prepared to return attack on any Israeli grounds, including embassies across the world.
Yeah,
You think it's all talk?
No, I do not think it's all talk. I think that so the difference, say, between Kim Jong-un in North Korea and the Ayatollah in Iran is, Kim Jong-un is an atheist. In his mind, this is the world is the only world there is. And I don't know if you've seen him, but he's a portly fellow. Mm-hmm. He is enjoying all of the things that a hedonist would enjoy, and he wants to keep enjoying those. Now, the Ayatollah, on the other hand, is very much theologically in the worldview that he can hasten the return of the Imadi, the Imam, the 10th Imam, that by bloodshed and by violence
To the death.
And so there's it's a death cult is the only way to describe it. And so when you hear them talk about negotiating with a death cult, you're trying to get someone out of a problem with logic that they did not logic themselves into, and it does not work. And if you're Israel, this is their future on the line right now. If you even just remove any sort of theological nuance to any of this, this is their decision, is they have to cut the head of the snake off. And of course, people are, protesting. And I heard Douglas Murray say, if you were to add up all of the death on both sides of the conflict with Israel, starting in the War for Independence in 1948 to today, and including, and these are the highest estimates of death, and on both sides, I might add, and add them all together, and that is still smaller than the number of people that have died in just the last decade in Syria, Muslims killing Muslims. Bashar al-Assad killing, so it's a Shia versus Sunni thing. And what Murray was saying, so here you got, just in that one alone, more people have died in the last 10 years because of Bashar al-Assad than the entirety of the Israeli war. And not a single Muslim was going to, march in the square of London over the deaths that Bashar al-Assad has poured out onto fellow Muslims. The 1 million Uyghur Muslims, that we call them Uyghurs, but they're Muslims in China that China has put into re-education camps. And not a single Muslim in London or Washington or Nashville could be bothered to give up a Saturday to speak on behalf of their Muslim brothers. But Israel defending themselves against a murderous, raping, torturing regime called Hamas, defends herself, and they're filling up university campuses with protests. That's madness, and you've heard me say it 100 times, where there's madness, there's Satan. It's always Satan when it's madness, and that is madness. And I don't know where this leads. Nobody does. This is about as uncharted waters as we can get, as far as on the secular side. But on the if you put a Christian lens over it, Damascus, I mean, that's a city that is mentioned very, very, very clearly in biblical prophecy as a city that will be destroyed and never to be inhabited again. Which it's right now one of the three. There's the three oldest cities on earth that have inhabited without interruption. Fez, Morocco. God, I can't remember the second one, but Damascus, Syria is the third one. So there has never been a time where Damascus has been destroyed and then not re-inhabited again. So that is yet to be fulfilled in prophecy. So when you see Damascus start piping up, when you see that Russians, I mean, well, we've been all distracted with, this crazy stuff going on in the world. The Russians have been literally building an outpost, a base in Syria near the Golan Heights in Israel. Like Russia views the Golan Heights as belonging to Syria, not Israel. So right under our nose, you've got Vladimir building up, a military presence in Israel. Now, again, cross-referencing Gog, Magog, I'll put a hook in your jaw, drag you down into that. I don't know if this is that moment, but when you cross-reference it with Scripture, you're like, well, it's hard to ignore that these are the very cities, the very nations, the very exact geographical locations that the Bible spoke of as the final war against God, man against God.
It's a good reminder. It's a good update. We don't know how this is going to end. I mean, it seems so far-reaching for this to resolve over the next weeks and months. It feels like this is going to be a minute.
Yeah, if you're Netanyahu, assuming his presidency, prime ministership, whatever, survives this, he has made no secret of what his intentions are.
Correct.
And that is, it will take a while. It could have been over by now if Israel wanted genocide. These people talking about genocide and Israel genocide, it's so stupid. If they were after genocide, the war would be over. They would have bulldozed Gaza and killed millions of people, and we'd be done. So it's not a genocide move on their part. But when you've got 400 miles worth of tunnel, when you've got still 100 of your own people held hostage, and the knowledge that the people holding him hostage have every intention of ratcheting it up. He's got two wars. He's got the PR war and he's got the physical war. And I don't know if his presidency, prime ministership, whatever, was already in trouble, but I don't know if it will survive this, because there's lots of legitimate questions as to how Israel didn't see it coming. And yet that's every one of us. Like in hindsight, it's always 2020. You look at it now going, how is it possible that every bomb shelter in southern Israel did not have a lock on the door? Like it didn't occur to them that they would come with machine guns. They were busy trying to protect themselves against, missiles. And by the way, there's still missiles being fired every day. I mean, there was a UAE, United, whatever it was, that hit they tried to hit Eilat, Israel. I mean, just yesterday there were two things intercepted over the Sea of Galilee through the Iron Dome. If it's coming from the Sea of Galilee, whether it's coming from Jordan or Beirut, or I don't know where it's coming from, but it's definitely not coming from the south, Hamas. So there's other forces at work here that Israel is dealing with on a very fierce level.
The Easter side of Eden. We are, in fact, on the other side of Easter. The Conduit.
We're on the Memorial Day side of Easter.
Continuing on Genesis chapter 3 this weekend. Probably more broader view of the chapter.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I don't leave for Genesis 4 without really diving into exactly what happened in Eden. Yeah. Like, for instance, the curse. I guess maybe we'll talk on this. Yeah, we probably will. The curse of woman was that he will rule over you. Now, a lot of fundamentalists have used that, that's because we're Adam and Eve and Adam was greater, this and that. But the idea that he would rule over her is actually part of the curse. That's Genesis 3, not Genesis 2. That is not how it was meant to be. And it speaks of like a negative sense of ruling over her, like the power play. So a lot of what we see trying to be framed as toxic masculinity, whatever, is just part of the sin of the world. And that the female, the part of her curse is she'll still desire to be in a relationship. Like she still wants, like, you know, these are broad sweeping statements, but it's why the curse of the male is the desire for power over her, and the curse of the female is to look the other way on the power, and I'll put up with it. You know, if I can make myself hurt long enough, you'll love me, that kind of thing. And it's like, oh, that's every country song ever written,
right,
from Genesis 3. But it's not the way it was meant to be. We'll talk about that.
No, that's good. East of Eden. I mean, the easter side of Eden is a play on words. East of Eden. Wasn't that a band?
That was Out of Eden.
Out of Eden. Which
I booked 3 sisters, and I almost called it Out of Eden as the sermon. Just that'd be a fun little play on from my history. But maybe there was a band called East of Eden. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see here. Well, it was a movie. It was a movie title.
Oh, it's the movie made for Steinbeck's novel.
What was Rascal Flatts' band name? One of the guys was in that band.
East to West.
East to West. See, we got them all confused.
That was where I spent my formative years, man, driving that little airport shuttle bus with a broken water pump that like broke down all the time. And those boys could sleep through. I mean, they literally, this is a true story. We broke down, headed to Indianapolis. So it's Jay DeMarcus, Neil Coomer, and Jeff Ross. Actually, no, Gary. I don't think Gary was there. Breaks down. They literally slept through me finding a tow truck. I didn't have a quarter. I had to wave down a highway patrolman.
See, got to take your quarter.
They towed the bus.
Oh my gosh.
To a shop. They fixed the bus in the shop. I'm driving now, and these guys are just now getting out of their bunks, trying to figure out what was going on.
They slept in the bus while it was in the shop?
What was being towed, bro? Like, I look back on that like, wait a minute.
So dangerous.
How did they the tow truck driver gave exactly no crap. So Shannon was with me that weekend. Here's what I remember about it the most is that I'd just seen like a Dateline or a 60 Minutes where beautiful women are more likely to get help on the side of a road, right? It's common sense. I'm out there trying to wave down whatever, nobody's stopping, so I drag my wife out now.
Oh my!
But it was like no degrees, and so she's wrapped in a blanket. So they didn't know she's beautiful. They just know this looked like a little blanket. So that didn't help. But anyway, they all slept through the whole thing with it, and they let them sleep while we were towing it. For crying out loud! I guess that's
East to West became Rascal Flatts.
Yeah. Not Neil. Neil went to New York to live, let's say, creatively.
DeMarcus.
But Jay, and then his cousin Gary.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember thinking, so he was playing bass for Michael English in 97, 98, because East to West was done. And I was booking Michael, and Jay was saying, man, Darren, there was some stuff going on there. I remember him saying, and if I think it's weird, it's not good going on. And so, but yeah, in the meantime, he was trying to put together a country band that, true story, they were trying to make them, initially the record label said, we want them to be like the country music version of 98 Degrees.
Wow.
Unfortunately, 2 of the guys could not be a boy band. I think Joe Don could have pulled it off, but the rest of them were like, no, you're just a little more frumpy than Nick Lachey. So
it worked out.
Oh, buddy.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you one of the brilliance of those guys is, and this is credit to Jay DeMarcus, is he didn't care who wrote the song. He knew that it was the song that would carry the day. So whether he wrote it or not mattered not. It was the best song always won. When you could look at their catalog and go, yeah, that's true. They've written some great stuff. But
from East to West to Out of Eden, you get East of Eden, and that's how you wrap it up.
That's one way to do it.
Thank you guys for joining us on this week's podcast. It's good to be back in the saddle. And if you didn't get a chance to catch the Easter teaching, obviously you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, of course. And we thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's growing. We like to put these up each and every week now, audio and video, for you to catch up on the latest Deeper podcast. And we will see you next week.